I drove back to my childhood neighborhood 2 years after Grandma passed away. I was there to help my best friend, Sam, sort through her things. I thought I was ready for the memories. I was wrong. The air felt heavy, like something was watching me. As I pulled up, the stillness hit me. It was too quiet for a summer day. The house was as I remembered, but so many things felt off. I walked inside, and the dust hit me like a wave. I found Sam in the attic. He was sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes, his face pale. We talked about the old days at first. I was trying to lighten the mood. But then I noticed something strange. A loose floorboard. Curious, I knelt down and pried it open. I pulled out a dusty journal, its cover worn. I opened it and felt my heart race. The scribbles were odd and wild, mostly about things that happened on a specific date 2 years ago. That was when Sam first mentioned making a deal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I heard whispers. They were soft, but I knew they were there. I told myself it was just the old house settling, but I felt wrong. I grabbed the journal again, flipping through the pages. I thought about calling Sam to discuss what I found, but instead, I shoved the book under my bed. I hoped the whispers would stop. The next morning, I made breakfast. I could hear Sam moving around, but there was an odd silence between us. I felt strange, like there were secrets in the air. I thought about that deal Sam made. If I were him, I would not want to talk about it either. As the day dragged on, I started seeing shadows slipping in my periphery. They felt alive. I wanted to shake off the fear. I watched Sam move around the attic, and he seemed off, like he was hiding something. I decided to confront him. "Sam, about that night, what deal did you make?" I asked, my voice shaky. He turned pale, the color drained from his face. He muttered something. "A price to pay," he said, but then he quickly added that it didn't matter, changing the subject abruptly. I glanced toward the shadows in the corner, and I thought for a second I saw one twitch. When I really looked, nothing was there. That night, I was in bed when I heard it. A voice, clear and sharp, whispered my name. I bolted upright, heart racing. I was alone in my room, but I felt like the house was alive. I recalled the journal and its dark entries. Whatever happened 2 years ago, it had changed everything. Then I heard a knock on the wall. It was rhythmic. I wanted to shout for Sam, but I didn't want to disturb him. I slipped out of bed and stepped into the dark hallway. That's when I found Sam standing there, staring blankly at the wall. "Sam?" I whispered. He turned to me, eyes wide. "Why are you with her?" he asked, voice trembling. I was confused. I turned around, but no one was behind me. When I looked back at Sam, he was gone. I stood there in the dim hallway, confusion washing over me. "With who?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. But Sam was gone, leaving only the echo of his question hanging in the air. I rushed down the stairs, heart pounding. This wasn't about memories anymore. Something was very wrong. I wanted to call out for Sam, but my throat felt tight. I needed to figure out what was happening. I grabbed the journal from under my bed, flipping through the pages again. The same dark entries stared back at me. Most of it was illegible scrawls, but one line caught my eye. "The day she came, everything changed." I didn't know who she was, but I felt a chill creep up my spine. I searched for Sam, calling his name softly, afraid the shadows might actually hear me. I reached the attic and paused at the door. The air felt thick, like it was pregnant with some kind of dread. I stepped inside, the creaking floorboards beneath me accentuating the unsettling silence. And then I saw it. On the floor in the corner, a floral-patterned shawl lay crumpled. I recognized it. It belonged to my grandma. I hadn't seen it in years. I picked it up, memories flooding my mind. But the moment I touched the fabric, a cold wave washed over me. I felt an electric pulse travel from the shawl to my fingertips. A glimpse of a memory surged through me.
My grandma had said to never engage with the shadows at dusk. They were more than mere tricks of the light. The urgency in her voice rang loud in my mind. I whipped around, half expecting to find something lurking behind me. That's when I heard it, a soft giggle, tinkle like wind chimes, but there was no breeze. My breath hitched. I turned slowly, scanning the dim room. Nothing. Then the giggle came again, clearer this time, like it was right next to me. Panic prickled my skin. "Sam!" I shouted, feeling desperate. I needed him. The walls felt like they were closing in, and I could barely think straight. I dashed down the stairs, each step quickened by my mounting fear. I reached the living room and skidded to a halt. Sam was sitting on the couch, staring blankly ahead. He didn't respond when I called his name. I rushed over, shaking him by the shoulders. "Sam, wake up!" Finally he blinked, but his eyes were glazed over. "Why did you bring her here?" he mumbled, voice distant. "Who are you talking about? What's going on?" I felt trapped, like he was slipping away again. He blinked rapidly, snapping back to reality. "The deal. We have to."
"Undo it before it's too late," he whispered, finally meeting my eyes with sheer panic. He was back, but I could feel the atmosphere shift, something dark hovering just out of sight. Then the laughter started again. This time it echoed through the house, loud and mocking. "We're not alone," Sam said, fear in his eyes. That's when I knew. Whatever had happened 2 years ago, it was just the beginning. I felt a chill creep down my back as the laughter rolled around us. It was disorienting, like the walls themselves were laughing at our panic. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to steady myself. "What deal? What are you talking about?" Sam pressed his palms to his temples, as if squeezing out the echoes haunting his mind. "I don't remember everything, only flashes. It's like trying to grasp smoke," he murmured. "But I know we did something we shouldn't have." "Who's she?" I remembered the line from the journal. "Who is this person you're talking about?" He shook his head, frustration flickering in his eyes. "I don't know, but we have to stop her. Her name, it's like a whisper I can't catch." The laughter rose again, blending into a cacophony that made it hard to think straight. I glanced around the room, feeling like we were trapped in a vortex. Shadows curled and twisted in the corners, eager to consume us. "We can't stay here. We have to get out." "No," Sam grabbed my wrist tightly. "We can't hide. We have to confront it. The shadows are drawn to fear. We need to find out what they want." His grip was firm, but the way his eyes darted around made it clear he was just as afraid. "Where do we start?" I asked, my pulse racing. "Check the attic again. Look for anything that could give us a clue, anything related to Grandma," he emphasized, like he was digging through the fog in my mind, trying to find clarity. "Okay, but we stick together," I replied, reluctant to separate again. We needed each other's strength. We made our way back upstairs, the laughter trailing behind us like a taunt. The attic door creaked open, and I felt an unease settle over me again. The shadows seemed thicker, more alive. The shawl lay abandoned on the floor, and I stepped over it cautiously, eyes fixed on the far corner. There, I noticed the outline of another box, one I hadn't seen before. It was plain and unadorned, yet my heart raced at the thought of what might be inside. I approached it slowly, every instinct screaming to turn back. I reached down, my fingers brushing against the cool, rough surface of the lid. "Do you think it's safe?" I whispered, hesitation flooding my voice. "I don't know," Sam replied, his expression mirroring my uncertainty. "But we have to know." With a deep breath, I lifted the lid. The contents spilled out, a collection of old photographs, each more disturbing than the last.
Faces I didn't recognize stared back at me, their eyes seemingly pleading for help. But one photo caught my attention. It was a woman in a long, dark dress, her hair flowing like a shadow. Her smile was unnaturally wide. "Who is she?" I breathed, feeling the air shift as though something darker loomed in the background. "It's her," Sam said, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "It has to be her, the woman from the deal." A sudden gust of wind swept through the attic, slamming the door shut behind us. We were trapped. "Sam!" I cried, panic bubbling up inside me. "What do we do?" Then, from the midst of the shadows, a figure began to materialize. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. This wasn't just a memory. It was real. "This was a mistake," a voice echoed, smooth and velvety, sending cold ripples through my very being. And in that moment, I realized we were no longer just on the verge of something unknown. We were now ensnared in a web of our own making. The figure emerged fully, her features both beautiful and terrifying. She had the same wide smile as in the photograph, but it felt more like a sneer now. "You came looking for answers," she purred, her voice wrapping around me like a cold breeze. "But I fear you won't like what you find." "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman stepped closer, and the shadows rippled around her, dancing at her command. "I am the keeper of secrets," she replied, a glint in her eye. "And oh, how I love to trade." I glanced at Sam, whose face was pale and drawn. "You don't need to listen to her," he said, trying to sound defiant, but his voice wavered. "We know about the deal." Her laughter filled the space, a sound like glass shattering. "You think you know. Think again." She pointed at the scattered photographs around us. "Each one tells a story. Each one has its price." "Price?" I echoed, confusion twisting my stomach. "What do you mean?" "It's simple," she said, stepping closer. "I offer knowledge, power, or release from your fears. But there's always a cost." The attic felt smaller, the air heavy with something I couldn't define. "What cost?" I asked, determination edging out my fear. She leaned in, her breath cool against my skin. "Your memories, your loved ones, or perhaps your sanity. It all depends on what you're willing to sacrifice." "Get away from us!" Sam shouted, sounding more brave than I felt. But the woman only laughed, an unsettling sound that echoed off the walls. "Each choice you've made has led you here. The more desperate you become, the more you'll lose." Her smile widened, revealing sharp teeth. "Time is running out for you both." I could feel panic clawing at my throat. "What do you want?" I asked. "What do you gain from this?" "Oh, sweet child," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I gain your fear, your despair. It fuels me in ways you can't imagine." Before I could respond, the box I had touched earlier began to tremble, and the photographs started shifting. Faces whispered their secrets, calling out to me. I pressed my hands to my ears, desperate to block out their pleas. "Stop it!" I yelled, but my voice felt small against the whirlwind of shadows surrounding me. "Do you see now?" the witch taunted. "Every choice brings you deeper. You can't escape what's coming." Before I could respond, the box I had touched earlier began to tremble, and the photograph started shifting. Faces whispered their secrets, calling out to me. I pressed my hands to my ears, desperate to block out their pleas. "Stop it!" I yelled, but my voice felt small against the whirlwind of shadows surrounding me. "Do you see now?" the witch taunted. "Every choice brings you deeper. You can't escape what's coming." Something inside me snapped. "We're not afraid of you!" I screamed. At that moment, the air changed. It felt charged, heavy with something potent and dangerous. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Then let me show you what lies beneath the surface." Everything went dark. Suddenly, I was no longer in the attic. I stood in a twisted version of our backyard, the sky churning overhead. An eerie fog enveloped the ground, swirling ominously. "Sam!" I shouted, but my voice barely echoed back. I was alone, and then I felt it, a presence creeping closer. In my gut, I knew I had made a mistake challenging her, and that's when I saw it. A figure darting just outside the curtain of fog, its shape familiar, yet wrong. "No," I whispered, the realization dawning on me like a cruel joke. I had to find Sam. I had to get back to the attic, but whatever was out there wasn't going to let me escape easily. The fog thickened around me, swallowing the backyard whole. Each breath felt cold, laced with dread. I could barely see a few feet ahead, but I knew I had to keep moving. The figure I had seen lingered at the edge of my vision, darting between the trees, teasingly close, yet just out of reach. "Sam," I called again, desperation leaking into my voice. "Where are you?" No answer came, only the unsettling silence wrapping around me like a shroud. Just then, a whisper slithered through the air. "He's just beyond." It didn't sound like Sam. I hesitated, my gut twisting. "Stop!" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. But the laughter answered me, echoing against the cold familiarity of the backyard. Whatever was out there was playing with me. I turned, trying to catch a glimpse of the figure that haunted me. "Show yourself!" I screamed, anger mingling with fear. The fog shifted in response, pulling away slightly, revealing glimpses of distorted lawn furniture and the half-collapsed swing set. That's when I noticed the shadows gathering. They swirled at my feet, starting to take shape, forming what looked like hauntings from my past. My childhood dog, my mother calling me for dinner, even my little sister laughing as we played. I shook my head violently. This isn't real. The figures wavered and flickered, a cruel mimicry of happy memories. "Everything you."
"Fear can be twisted," a voice whispered, deeper and more sinister than the shadows themselves. "Everything you love can be turned against you." I stumbled back, the ground uneven beneath my feet, heart racing. I had to get out. "Enough!" I shouted. I couldn't let them get to me. I turned to flee, willing myself to push through the fog. But then a hand shot out from the mist, grabbing my wrist tightly. The grip was icy, sending shock waves of terror through me. I turned to see a face, familiar yet hollow, eyes devoid of warmth. It was Sam, but he looked different. His expression was blank, a puppet in someone else's game. "Sam!" I screamed, but he didn't respond. "Snap out of it!" The shadows tightened around us like a vice. "You made a choice," the voice echoed, growing louder. And now it's time to claim the price. The twisted landscape shifted again, and I could feel the ground vibrating, pulling me deeper into this nightmare. I yanked my arm free from Sam's grip, stumbling backward into the fog. It felt alive, swirling with malevolence. I had to escape, had to find the truth behind the secrets that chained us. Then, through the chaos, I saw it, a hint of light filtering through the fog. It pierced the darkness like a beacon. If I could reach it, maybe I'd find a way back to reality, back to safety. I took off, running toward the light. But the shadows screamed in protest, reaching for me, pulling me back into the dark depths. Every step got heavier, but I couldn't slow down. I needed to know if Sam was still in there, buried beneath whatever the witch had done to him. As I drew closer, the light pulsed like a heartbeat, warm and welcoming amidst the cold void. I could feel something waiting beyond, something that could either save us or destroy everything I knew. I didn't have time to think. With one final burst of energy, I pushed through the fog, reaching for the light. What I found on the other side shocked me to my core. The moment I broke through the fog, my surroundings changed entirely. The oppressive darkness lifted, revealing a wide open space bathed in pale moonlight. The air was fresh and fragrant, a stark contrast to the stale chill I had just escaped. But this new world didn't feel safe. It was charged, buzzing with an energy I could barely comprehend. I scanned the area for any sign of Sam. "Sam!" I called again, but my voice felt weak, swallowed by the vastness around me. It was strange to feel so liberated, yet so alone. The shift had been disorienting. A flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned to see a figure standing just outside the light, its features indistinct, but alarmingly familiar. My heart raced. Was it Sam? I took a cautious step closer, my pulse quickening with nervousness. This figure reached out, and my breath caught in my throat. "Help me!" it rasped. The voice was strained, a weak echo of Sam's. It didn't hold any warmth, just a desperate plea that sent chills down my spine. "Sam, is that you?" I stepped forward, but instinctively raised my hands, half expecting to be snatched back into the fog. I squinted, trying to make out the details in the darkness. The shadows twisted around him, clinging like a fog of despair. "Yes," he shouted, and for a glimmering second I thought I saw hope in his eyes. "You have to break the pact before it's too late." "What pact?" Panic unfurled in my stomach. I remembered the whispers of danger, the warnings I'd brushed aside when we decided to summon something beyond our understanding. "Where are you?" I yelled, anxiously searching around. "What happened?" He began to fade, becoming more indistinct as the shadows pulsed with energy. "The witch! She demands a price! You can save me, but you have to face her." What?" I stammered, grappling with the weight of the ultimatum. "How do I face her? Where is she?" Suddenly, a jagged laugh resonated through the night, slicing away the moonlight. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating within me. "You think you can escape me?" The hairs on my neck stood up. I turned in every direction, my heart pounding. I had to understand what I was up against. I needed to fight through this fear. But the closer I got to grasping the truth, the more the world twisted around me, threatening to swallow me whole once again. I glanced back at Sam, struggling against the shadows. "Hang on! I'll save you!" I shouted, feeling the desperation clawing at my throat. "I'm counting on you." His voice trailed off, swallowed by the laughter echoing around me. Then everything went dark. The light I had just found blinked out, and I was consumed by the heavy fog once again.
I could feel the shadows crawling back, wrapping around me like a cold embrace. My breath quickened as panic set in. No, not again! I felt the ground quake beneath me, the very fabric of reality shaking. The laughter grew louder, drowning out Sam's faint cries. Just when I thought I would lose myself entirely, I felt something sharp tug at my mind. A memory, a fragment of what Sam had tried to tell me. The deal. What had he done? With a sudden rush of determination, I braced myself. "I won't let you take him," I screamed, forcing myself to push through the fog, searching for the truth behind the darkness. And that's when I saw it. A shadow loomed ahead, its edges jagged and sharp against the muted light of the moon. I squinted, unwilling to believe what I was seeing. It was her, the witch. For a moment, panic threatened to paralyze me, but something about her presence pushed me forward. Maybe this was the confrontation I needed. "Who are you?"
I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt. She chuckled softly, the sound filled with malice. "You already know, don't you? I'm the answer to all your little problems." Her eyes gleamed, dark pools that seemed to swallow the moonlight. "Where's Sam?" I demanded, anger mixing with fear. "What do you want with him?" Her smile widened, revealing teeth that glimmered like shards of glass. He was foolish, thinking he could control the darkness. But every pact has a price, and dear Sam hasn't paid yet. My gut churned at her words. "What did he promise you?" "His loyalty," she replied casually, as if discussing the weather. "But loyalty alone is not enough. I require a soul to seal the deal." Her gaze pierced into me like a knife drawing blood. "Yours would do nicely." I felt a rush of dread creep over me. I couldn't let her have me, not when it meant losing Sam. "You won't get either of us," I said, though my voice wavered. She laughed again, the sound echoing in the empty space. "Oh, sweet child, it's not about what I want. It's about what you'll choose to do. Will you save him by offering yourself, or do you dare defy me?" The weight of her words hung heavy around me. I had to think. Sam was counting on me, but this felt like a trap. My mind raced. Could I outsmart a witch? My heart ached, a burning desire to save my friend, clashing with the instinct to flee. "Sam said I could break the pact," I blurted, trying to buy myself some time. "What does that even mean?" The witch's lips curled into a wicked grin. "Break the pact. Oh, my dear, breaking it means facing your darkest fears. It means proving your heart's worth." Her laughter reverberated through the fog, growing louder, wrapping around me like a vice. "Only then will you find him." I took a deep breath, grounding myself. If I had to face my fears to save him, then I would. "I'm not afraid of you," I said, forcing the words out despite the tremor in my voice. Brave words. But when the darkness comes crawling back, will you hold your ground? Her figure shifted, melding into the shadows, leaving me alone again in this nightmarish landscape. A chill swept over me, and I felt the fog close in tighter, threatening to swallow me once more. "Sam, I'll find you!" I shouted into the void, desperation clawing at my throat. The shadows trembled in response, teasing at my resolve. Then, without warning, I felt a presence behind me, cold and malevolent. I turned slowly, heart racing, to find something lurking in the dark. It was watching me. "Who's there?" I breathed, too afraid to move.
A low growl resonated from the shadows, sending shivers down my spine. And just like that, everything changed. I had to confront whatever lay ahead. Would it lead me to Sam, or
would it pull me deeper into the witch's trap? There was no turning back now. I barely had time to process the growl when a hulking figure lunged from the shadows. My instincts kicked in, and I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. What had I stepped into? The creature, if that's what it was, emerged fully into the weak moonlight. Its eyes gleamed like two fiery coals, reflecting the darkness around us. I felt trapped in its gaze. It seemed to pull at my very soul. Fear gripped me, but I knew I couldn't give in. Not now. "Sam!" I shouted again, my voice piercing through the dread. "Where are you?" The creature paused, its growl fading momentarily, as if it sensed my determination. It didn't move, only watched, and for a brief moment, I wondered if this was some dark guardian of the witch's realm, waiting to see if I'd turn and run. "Face your fears," the witch's voice echoed in my mind. If I wanted to save Sam, I needed to confront whatever this was, and fast. "What do you want?" I demanded, trying to sound brave, though my legs felt like jelly. The creature responded with a low snarl, making it clear it had no intention of speaking. It was a predator, and I was its prey. In a sudden rush of adrenaline, I jumped sideways, moving with purpose. I had to create distance while I thought of a plan. As I moved, memories of Sam flooded back. His laughter, our shared adventures, and now his desperate plight. I couldn't let him down. As I darted through the mist, I saw something. An old wooden table just a few feet away, half hidden by the fog. With a glance behind me to make sure the creature hadn't followed, I approached the table. It was covered in strange symbols and an odd assortment of items. Dried herbs, small glass jars, and an old mirror that shimmered faintly. That mirror caught my attention. A thought hit me. What if I could use it? The witch had spoken of fears. "A mirror reflects what you truly are," my mother used to say. I wasn't quite sure how, but maybe I could use it to stand against this monster. The growl returned behind me, harsher now. I grabbed the mirror, its handle cold and ancient. Taking a deep breath, I turned it towards the creature. "Show me!" I yelled, holding steady. Then everything went quiet. Silence enveloped us, thick and palpable. The creature froze, its fierce form fading in and out of my vision. I could feel the tension building, as if the very air around us waited for a decision to be made. Suddenly, the mirror flickered and images began to fill its surface. My heart sank as I saw a reflection of myself, my fears laid bare. Doubt and loneliness swirled around me like a tempest. Just when I thought I might drown in it, the creature charged. Panic rushed back. I stumbled and dropped the mirror, the glass clattering against the rocky ground. The impact shattered the moment of clarity. I had to get up. I had to act before it was too late. With every ounce of courage, I rose. "Sam!" I shouted again, more determined this time. Then, just out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure emerge from the fog, a familiar silhouette. My breath caught in my throat. It was him. But something was wrong. Sam was walking towards me, and all I could see was darkness swirling around him. "Sam!" I called, desperate and terrified. "What's happening?" The creature approached, not far behind him. Two threats in the night, and I was caught in the middle. What was this darkness consuming my friend? What deal had Sam truly made? The darkness rolled off Sam like smoke. He seemed so close, yet so unreachable. "Get away from him!" I shouted, my voice trembling with fear. But the words felt weak, hollow. "Jessica," Sam's voice came, distant and muffled. "Help me." There was a sadness in his tone that I had never heard before. It made my heart ache. I took a step forward, but my feet felt glued to the ground. The creature growled again, a deep and menacing sound that rumbled through the air. It was clear that it was defending something, or someone. "What did you do?" I whispered, barely able to process the reality that stood before me. Sam hesitated, staring into the darkness swirling around him. "I didn't know," he murmured, his eyes searching mine, desperate. "I didn't know it would be like this." Images flashed in my mind. The day he'd first mentioned the witch, how intrigued he had been. A secret meeting, an incantation whispered under his breath, and suddenly everything began to change around him. "Your deal with the witch," I said, feeling the anger rise. "What did she promise you?" He faltered, a flicker of shame crossing his face. "Power," he admitted, his voice almost a whisper. "But I thought I could control it. It's consuming me, Jess. I can't." The creature lunged forward, interrupting him. I held my ground, desperate to keep Sam's attention. I needed to pull him back. I needed my friend. "You have to fight it," I pleaded. "You can't let it take you." But the shadows crawled around Sam's body, tightening their grip with each word. "I can't. I don't know how," he admitted, fear lining his features. I turned my gaze to the creature. It loomed closer, its eyes burning like the very fires of hell. Maybe the witch had sent it to retrieve Sam. Or maybe it just fed on fear, and my friend had become its meal. "Sam, focus on me," I shouted, racking my brain for a way out. What did the witch say? There was something about breaking the spell. The answer bubbled to the surface of my mind. "You need to embrace the fear, Sam." "Show it you're stronger." The creature halted, tilting its head as if considering my words. Sam's expression shifted, determination creeping into his eyes. "You mean I just have to confront it?" "Yes," I encouraged, hope blooming inside me. "You're not alone. I'm right here." He nodded slowly, and just for a moment I believed we could break this curse. But then the darkness tightened around him like a noose, choking out his strength. "No! Fight it, Sam!" I watched as my friend trembled, his essence flickering like a candle in the wind. The creature growled more fiercely, sensing the struggle. With a deep breath, Sam stepped back. "I will fight," he declared. "For you, Jess." Suddenly, the shadows seemed to writhe, as if they could feel his resolve. That's when I saw it, the glimmer of something bright within the dark mass surrounding him. A counter to the terror. But before I could utter another word, the creature lunged again, and in an instant, everything went dark. A rush of cold air enveloped me as I felt my heart race and my stomach drop. I had lost them in the dark. What had just happened? And worse, was it already too late for Sam? Gasping for breath, I found myself back in the attic, the air thick and suffocating. The shadows pulsed around me, swirling and flickering, but now they felt different, like a turbulent sea waiting for the tide to change. I stood alone, heart racing, the echoes of the witch's laughter lingering in the corners of my mind. "Sam!" I shouted, my voice cracking as desperation clawed at my throat. There was no response, only silence and the hasty rhythm of my own heartbeat against the thick walls. I felt helpless, tethered to the darkness, but I refused to let fear consume me. I glanced over the cluttered attic. Those boxes and old memories now felt steeped in danger. The shawl, the journal, they held the remnants of our past, which had collided violently with this present. "I will find you, Sam, I promise," I murmured, trying to summon any flicker of certainty amid the chaos. I returned to the box, digging into its contents with frantic determination. The photographs had spilled around me, some lying face up, and I scanned their haunting faces for a clue. There, beyond the grotesque smiles and vacant eyes, I noticed something beneath the scattered images. It was an old letter, yellowed with age and stained from neglect. I unraveled it cautiously. "To Amelia," it read, and as I continued reading, my mind started piecing together a disturbing history. The letter described a need for boundaries, for sacrifice, in a pact. A name surfaced, the witch's true identity. Amelia. A cold realization swept over me like ice water. As if responding to my recognition, the air shifted. The shadows stirred, drawing closer, waking up. I understood now. This was about choice and consequence, not just for me or for Sam, but for everyone who had ever crossed her path. With newfound
determination, I held the letter high, the words a lifeline against the darkness. "Amelia, I know your name!" I shouted. The room seemed to tremor, and for a fleeting moment the shadows hesitated, tangible fear rippling through them. "Your reign of terror ends here," I declared, clenching the letter. I recalled Sam's face, the way he had looked at me just before he vanished into the shadows. I couldn't allow myself to falter. "I will break this deal." The shadows writhed violently, a whirlpool of anguish and fury. In the midst of the chaos, a voice slithered through the air, oily and dripping with malice. "You think you can sever the bond. His soul is mine, and so will yours be." "Not if I fight," I pressed. The energy shifted, an electric charge in the air. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a battle of wills, one I wouldn't lose. Suddenly, everything started to shake. The shadows recoiled, and I felt a force pushing against me, as if the very foundations of the attic were ready to splinter apart. But I wouldn't back down. "Yes, I will fight!" I screamed, letting the fire of my determination ignite like a beacon. In that moment, the room exploded in a torrent of light. Shadows shrank back, curling away from the brightness as if in pain. I envisioned Sam, trapped and tortured, and with each thought of him, my light grew brighter. The echoes of laughter turned to wails as the light enveloped the space, drowning out the relentless whispers. I didn't understand everything that was happening, but I felt the walls shifting, loosening their grasp on the shadows that threatened to ensnare us. Then, in the heart of that light, I saw him, Sam, appearing like a ghost breaking through the surface of the abyss. He was weary and worn, but he was there. "Jess," he called, a look of disbelief crossing his face. "Stay with me," I cried, holding tight to the energy surging around us. I could feel him slipping, shadows clinging to his essence. "Embrace the light, Sam! You're stronger than this!" His eyes blazed with uncertainty, and for a moment it felt like the very world hung in the balance. I can't," he faltered, darkness writhing at his feet. "Yes, you can!" I yelled, reaching out toward him. "Remember who you are! Remember us!" Just like that, something shifted. The shadows began to retreat. I saw his expression change, hope edging in, as the darkness around him began to falter. "Fight, Sam! Fight for us!" With a surge of power, he straightened, casting the darkness away with one rapid movement of his arms. In that heartbeat, his essence unleashed a wave of warmth, flooding the attic with brilliance. The shadows screamed, clawing at the edges, but they were overwhelmed by the light. "The pact is broken!" I shouted, and in that instant the shadows imploded, vanishing into the ether, leaving nothing but a whisper of cold air in their wake. The attic felt eerily calm. I turned to find Sam standing beside me, his eyes clear for the first time, the remnants of darkness dissipating like smoke. We met in a silent understanding, a bond stronger than before. But then, the moment of triumph turned somber, questions echoed dimly. How had we truly escaped? What had become of the witch? "Did we stop her?" Sam murmured, glancing nervously around. "I don't know," I admitted, a chill creeping back in. "But if she's gone, then maybe we're free." Yet deep down, uncertainty lingered. The shadows might have retreated, but they had not entirely vanished. It left me with an unsettling craving for the answers that had escaped us. I moved away from here once, I confessed softly, looking at the attic filled with remnants of our past. But maybe I can't avoid it forever. I realized then the weight of our choices would follow us, whether in the attic or elsewhere. Sometimes the shadows remain, lurking just beyond the corners of awareness, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they would surface again. As we stepped outside into the moonlit night, that creeping unease settled in my chest. There would be more troubles ahead, more whispers of shadows in the dark, bringing with them questions that would likely never be answered. But for now, we found solace in the light, despite knowing that the battle might not truly be over. Only time would tell whether we had won or if we had merely delayed the inevitable.